Welcome to Proclaiming Justice, a podcast from PJTN that focuses the light of truth on vital issues in today's headlines that impact every American. I'm your host, Laurie Cardoza-Moore, founder and president of Proclaiming Justice to the Nations, and I'm here to educate, motivate, and activate you to action. I want to arm you with the truth and the facts you'll need to fight and preserve our constitutional republic and uphold the Judeo-Christian values our nation was founded upon. Welcome to Proclaiming Justice, a PJTN podcast, and I'm your host, Laurie Cardoza-Moore. If you missed the last episode of this podcast, you will find it and our previous podcast lineup on our website at pjtn.org, as well as all the other platforms that you use to access your favorite podcasts. On this week's podcast, I have invited Dan Rogers with We the People to Proclaiming Justice. Dan, thank you for joining us today on Proclaiming Justice podcast.
Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. So, Dan, tell us a little bit about your organization. I love your title, We the People. You've got a digital platform that you are using to help organize and unite We the People. And we at PJTN are all about mobilizing, educating, and activating our supporters, our followers to action. So tell us about We the People.
Yeah, it's actually WeThePeopleTownSquare.com and you can use it in any browser and download we have our own app in the app stores. So you can get that at WeThePeopleTownSquare.com or in the app stores, We the People Town Square. Mm-hmm. And it's about the people. I mean, the reason I named it that is because I think that resonates with the grassroots of America that want to take back their republic. Mm-hmm. They're starting to wake up and they're starting to understand that the politicians aren't going to do it. In fact, most of them are the enemy. Mm-hmm. We have to do it as individuals in our local community. Mm-hmm. And the town square is where people used to meet and talk to one another about issues and about their community and resolve issues and solve problems. Mm-hmm. So that's why I called it We the People Town Square.
Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about yourself, you personally. Why did you start this organization? I mean, have you always been involved in advocacy?
Well, no, I'm a businessman. I own I'm in the real estate business, own a lot of investment properties, manage, $100 million worth of real assets for others, plus what I own. And then I own a cattle ranch and have a mother cow operation, water and sewer operator, real estate broker. I do all kinds of things. And they asked me to come and take over the local Republican Party. It needed leadership, and it was kind of not really doing much. And they were concerned that it was going to go away and asked me if I would do it. I said no. And finally, I had a retired teacher come to my office and beg me to do it. I couldn't say no to her. So I thought that was right. That was in 2018, and Beto was running against Ted Cruz, and I'm like, how do we get a hold of the voters? And nobody knew. So I figured out how to get a hold of the voters. I started one of the first ones to start using text. I did it in an effective way. I never tell people how to vote. I thought I might be doing something wrong, so I was very careful not to tell people how to vote, just to vote. And it worked so well that Carl Rove called me and said, Rogers, what in the world did you do? Like, I thought I was in trouble. And he said, well, you hold the world record. You've more than doubled your voter turnout. And you took your county from 50-50 Democrat Republican to a 44-point swing in favor of Republicans. I want to know what you did. Right. So I kind of figured it out. And so then I started helping. Different candidates would call me, congressmen and whatnot. And if I liked them, I would help them. and get them elected. And but I needed something. I thought, well, we need something because it's expensive. They've changed all the rules.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of took the fun out of it because I have to buy. You have to go through all the approval process, which I've had to do, and I can text out probably more than anybody in the nation. But
Mm-hmm.
because I don't tell people how to vote, I refuse to ask for money,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't believe in that. I believe we should earn our money, not get
Mm-hmm.
donations. I think we just need to change the narrative. We need to get money out of politics.
Mm-hmm.
So I created this so that people can communicate. Once they join it,
Mm-hmm.
if there's an issue, we can notify them and they can choose how they want to be notified. So they
Mm-hmm.
can receive it as a push notification or an email when they want to get it, that sort of thing. And
Mm-hmm.
to me, that's what's so powerful about it because I don't like bothering people.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's something important and they need to know about it, I want to be able to let them know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Without
Right.
it, without me having to send them a text.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Text is good in certain situations. We're working on some bond issues where I don't have people in my database, and I'm just informing them and pulling them to a website so they can see both sides, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I believe if people are informed, they'll make the right decision. The
Mm-hmm.
problem we have is we have all this money in politics. And so what's happened is the parties have basically been neutered effectively. The big
Mm-hmm.
money,
Mm-hmm.
PACs and political interests, business interests, really,
Mm-hmm.
have taken over our political system
Right.
through money, right? And I'm trying to come up with a way to beat all these people and get it back to the people because I don't care what the people want
Mm-hmm.
because well, I say that, but I know what the people want, right?
Mm-hmm.
I talk to people like you every
Mm-hmm.
day. Everyday Americans, we all want the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
We want to get back to our foundational principles of
Mm-hmm.
liberty and responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We we don't want government controlled by a few corporations. That's
Right.
fact, right? And we're on the fast track to fascism if we're
Mm-hmm.
not already there.
Mm-hmm.
But we can take our republic back, but we have to do it one county at a time. That's you, whoever
Mm-hmm.
you are listening to this. If you'll just show up to your school board meeting, your
Mm-hmm.
council meeting, your commissioners meeting, you will transform your county and you don't have to say a word.
Mm.
Just be there. And
Yep.
so with this platform, you can join it, let us know. We'll create a little chapter for you. And then we'll have a Zoom meeting once a month or a platform meeting, and we can all communicate about what's going on in our local communities. We can help one another and help stop some of these things that are going on around our country.
Mhm. Absolutely. Well, this is music to my ears, and I know to our audience because our audience has been engaged. I, like you, can't tell people, and I don't want to tell people who to vote for. I want, like you, I want people to be educated and informed. And yes, as you said, people will make the right decision because the average American believes the way you and I do. We want those Judeo-Christian principles that used to govern our nation applied again. We don't want foreign governments, Islamist foreign governments coming in, buying up our textbooks, buying up our curriculum, indoctrinating our children with their values, their viewpoints. We are, as a republic, a Judeo-Christian nation. And unfortunately, we have lost our way. Our children have lost our way. And the reason why is because there's been a huge gaping hole. We've created this vacuum. And, if there's a vacuum, something is going to fill that vacuum. And unfortunately, we've allowed our enemy, people with money, billions of dollars, to infiltrate our system and take our country in a direction we didn't ask for. So I love what you're doing. Tell us a little bit about the the process. Now, do people, the average person can just go to your website, they can sign on. In fact, I was on your website earlier, just trying to navigate. I set up my own little account. I love the how it's designed with the people, pictures of people who are also in that area or on your website. Tell our audience, is it because a lot of the people that our audience attracts are people of 50 plus, and technology is not our strong suit. How easy is this to get in there? And because I just set up my account, I thought it was great, but there's a lot of details that you could actually put into this platform.
Yeah. Now, if you can use Facebook, you can use our system. Our system is easier, and the beauty of our system, there's no ads, there's no algorithms, and there's no distractions. What we want is for people to come into our system and join different conservative or Christian groups that might be on there, or we'll build this out more. And if somebody has a group that wants to be on there, we'll be happy to set them up their own space and their own group where they can communicate with one another. And I can make it to where people can have hidden groups to where nobody can see it and use it privately, or they can make it public, which means that if I wanted to join, I could request to join that group, or I can make it public where anybody can join it. So that's kind of a neat feature. And we can even set it up for people that have groups that they want to charge membership to, then we can set that up and they can do that. So it's pretty cool.
No,
There's a lot we can do with it. We have our own video platform. You could go live in it, just like you could live with Facebook and talk to all your members in your group all at once if you want. There's so much that we can do. And I was trying to figure out do all this on a website, and this is like a website on steroids. But the beauty is you can communicate with your neighbors on it, and that's what I like.
Absolutely. So this is important because, as we've been telling our supporters, we just finished the election in November, and now we've got 2 more years for the next election, especially for these local races. And I don't know how it is. You're headquartered in Texas. All the states are kind of different the way they have their whole process set up. But the important thing to note is we've got 2 years for the next local elections. We're trying to get our teams, our supporters now organized and mobilized to start looking at their school board candidates, looking at their county commission candidates, even looking at the sheriff, the local sheriff. I push the local sheriff races because our sheriffs are the closest thing to law enforcement to we the people. The sheriff is supposed to be a constitutional sheriff. And unfortunately, I don't know if you've found this, Dan, but I find a lot of sheriffs that I talk to don't even know about a constitutional sheriff being a constitutional sheriff, because even they've been indoctrinated or not educated about what their role as a sheriff is. And the sheriff is so important because when you go to those local meetings, we've seen the videos of people being ushered out by police officers and even some sheriffs, where people were not able to speak because they were speaking against what the status quo was within that hearing or that meeting. All the superintendent of schools had to do was call for the sheriff or the police officer to remove the person because the person was expressing their views and was upset, not threatening physically, but having people thrown out of meetings. And this is outrageous that we can't even go before our local authorities, question what they're doing. We're paying their salaries. What are your thoughts?
The sheriff is the most important elected official in your county. That sheriff should have arrested the police officers that did that and the elected officials that asked for that to be done. The sheriff can arrest a congressman and the president of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot of power.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that's why they're elected. And it wasn't until I got into this and I understood nobody thinks about any of this. Oh, we vote for the, they don't know why we vote for the sheriff and the county commissioners and
Mm-hmm.
the school board, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't, but that's because you're giving them immense authority, right?
Mm-hmm.
The most authority resides in the individual voter. He has more authority than the president of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
You do. And people don't understand it. But when you elect people, then they abide and enforce the rules, and they have the authority to do it. So that sheriff, you need to make sure in your community that that sheriff understands the Constitution and is willing to abide by it, because it
Mm-hmm.
will be the sheriffs that save this country if things go sideways.
Mm-hmm. Mm, good
Um,
point.
and he can form a militia in his county and should. Most of them don't. There are some that do of
Mm-hmm.
citizens. So in case what people don't understand, the
Mm-hmm.
reason Americans have the right to bear arms is not to hunt. It's to defend their republic against the politicians who have
Mm-hmm.
ceased representing them. That's why we have the right to bear arms. It's to protect us from the government. And what's the government's role? The government's role is to protect the people from the government. We're
Right.
supposed to defend ourselves with. That's what the Constitution says. So, and we have gotten a place in our country, and that's why I'm really focused on getting rid of the electronic voting machines. I say we need ballots, not
Yes.
right. And if we can get back to hand-marked, self-authenticated, tangible ballots that can
Mm-hmm.
be verified, then that's the foundation of our republic. We have to have that because that gives people confidence in the elected officials that the election is correct.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, they don't have it. And that creates problems that ripples around the world. So we have to get back to that, get rid of the electronic voting, get back to hand-marked, self-authenticated, tangible ballots that can be verified. And then we know that our sheriff was duly elected by the people because we can prove it. Now you
Mm-hmm.
can't prove anything. And then
Mm-hmm.
his job is to protect the people and the Constitution.
Yep.
That's why they call it a constitutional sheriff, because that's the only office that's mentioned in the Constitution, right? At the
And
county level, the local level.
mm-hmm.
So sheriffs are very, very important people.
And,
So we'll probably have a course on there in our We the People Town Square app here for too long on the role of sheriffs. We're going to have a lot of courses on there about how your two-party system works, how your county officers, their responsibilities, because most
right.
of it, like you say, they don't know their own
Mm-hmm.
role. I tried to point out to our county commissioners that they have the ability, well, they have the ability to get us out of electronic voting, but they
Mm-hmm.
don't have the courage to do it.
Right.
They don't want to rock the boat. I
Mm-hmm.
also think they have the right or the ability, the authority to choose not to collect property taxes in their county. The county commissioners have tremendous authority, but none of them have the courage to determine what that is and do it.
And that's therefore why we need elections to remove them, because if they're not willing to do their job because they're intimidated by the status quo and the people. I mean, we saw it in our county, in Williamson County. We thought, again, Williamson County is one of the most conservative, Republican, wealthiest counties in the nation, one of the top 10. And to see how our government operated, Tennessee is a lot like Texas. That's why we call each other sister states. We share the same values. We fought together in the Alamo. But you're right. We need to go back and educate the populace so that when they run for these local offices, the problem is they get elected into these local offices, and then they immediately usher them into a training program based on the status quo instead of what we should constitutionally be doing, representing each one of the constituents that elected us for that position. So this is so important, Dan, and I am so grateful for the work that you are doing. You are a great patriot. And as we're just wrapping up this interview, is there anything else you want to tell our audience about what you're doing, how they can get involved? You're just doing a phenomenal job. We're excited to have you on the program.
Well, I was asked to say something somewhere a while back, and I didn't know what to say, but I just got up and I said, I hear a lot of people are waking up. That's good. But it doesn't do any good to wake up if you don't get up, stand up, and show up, right?
Mm.
So that's what we have to do. Now that you're awake, now that you understand, you've got to show up at your local community political meetings. It doesn't take much time. Get off the screens, shut off your TV, and go meet your neighbors at your county commissioners meeting and just listen to what's going on. It will blow your mind. And if you are there, bad things will stop happening in your community, because the people that are elected, they're not bad people, but they don't have any backup. And I always liken it to owning a business. I asked a guy, and the reason this came to me is because I had sent some of my precinct chairs to the school district here to report back to us what's going on. And I had 4 of them show up over a summer, and I had a girl wanting to come to work for me. She was a principal at a school. And when I was interviewing her, I said, why do you want to come to work for me? And she said, well, I just love what you're doing. I'm like, well, what am I doing? She says, oh, you're the fact that you sent those people to the school board were epic. I'm like, what do you mean? She said, because those 4 people were there, they looked at the Amplify program and gutted it. They took out all the bad books out of the school, and it was tremendous. And
Wow.
she said it wouldn't have happened if those 4 people weren't there. And I said, well, did they say anything? She says, no, they didn't have to. Because they were there, the other school board members started asking questions. And that's when it hit me, right? And I had a call from a guy who owns a restaurant. Actually, he was the chef in the White House under Bush. And he called me needing signs, Trump signs. And I said, hey, Tim, what happens in your restaurant if you're not there for a week? He goes, oh, there's no way I could be gone. I can't be gone 2 days. I go, why is that? He said, well, everything just goes to pot. I said, but you have good employees, right? Oh, I got the best employees in the world. And I explained this to him because it's the same thing. We're the boss as citizens, right? But we're not paying attention and we're not showing up in our local government. And so our employees that we elect don't know what to do. They don't have direction from the boss, which is the people.
Right.
So it's our responsibility as citizens to show up. And when we don't, bad things happen. So we just have to be aware of that. And it really never occurred to me until I had that conversation with her, how important, that's the problem.
Right.
It's easy to fix. We just got to do it. Right. We can't talk. We have to do. And there's a lot of people out there that like to talk, but nobody does.
Oh, don't you know it.
Effort.
Well, Dan, we're going to have you do a program for us, and we're going to have to get the word out and get people to show up and get up and show up, because you're absolutely right. These people get elected and then we basically wash our hands and say we've done our part. No, we haven't done our part. We have to stay on top of it because, like I said, a vacuum is created and they're going to move the cattle in through each of the different gates to get them in the pasture they want them to. And it's not going to be the same pasture we want our cattle in. So,
That's really what we could, and this just occurred to me, what we could do with We the People. We could invite these sheriffs in and talk to us on the platform, right? And explain their role. And if a sheriff knows that has a way to communicate directly with his citizens, I think they would have the backbone.
Yep.
Right. But if they're out there floundering around by themselves, it's much more difficult to stand up to the status quo. We need to give them support and have their back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we look forward to talking with you about this and organizing something so that we can educate we the people and also inform our sheriffs, our local sheriffs, as we're going into these next elections. It's very important work you're doing. I'm so grateful to have you on the show today.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Absolutely. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you found this program informative. We're going to post this podcast on our website and all of our podcast platforms so that you can share with your family and friends. As PJTN Watchmen, we have a biblical mandate to stand against the ungodly, rising Nazi threat that is destroying this nation and other Western nations, threatening our Judeo-Christian values and promoting anti-Semitism. We cannot remain silent. God warned the prophet Ezekiel about the responsibility of the watchmen. They are to warn the inhabitants. As a watchman, you can sound the alarm and warn others by simply sharing this podcast with your family and friends. So please share and like this podcast to help sound the alarm in your community. Remember, Dietrich Bonhoeffer reminded us that silence in the face of evil is itself evil. God will not hold us guiltless. Not to speak is to speak. Not to act is to act. Don't forget to join us for next week's podcast as we continue our conversation about combating the rise of anti-Semitism and taking back local control of our communities and our children's education. I want to also remind you that if you have not signed up to become a PJTN Watchman, you can help support this mission through our award-winning documentaries and Focus on Israel programs, as well as more programs just like this one for just $20 a month. So go to our website at pjtn.org to watch our programs and listen to our past podcasts. With your generous monthly donation,